The Battle of Caporetto, October 1917, was a devastating surprise attack that shattered the Italian front and nearly brought Italy to collapse. For Austria-Hungary, it was their greatest victory. For Italy, a national disaster. The Italian Chief of Staff, Luigi Cadorna, had spent 2 years launching 11 bloody, fruitless offensives along the Isonzo River, achieving little but massive casualties. The terrain was brutal. Steep mountains, narrow valleys, and the Austro-Hungarians held the high ground. Italian soldiers, exhausted and poorly equipped, faced relentless attacks and harsh discipline from commanders like Cadorna, whose rigid tactics and willingness to execute his own men destroyed morale. The army was on the verge of breaking. Meanwhile, the Austro-Hungarians were also exhausted, their empire fracturing, and they knew they couldn't withstand another Italian assault. Desperate, they turned to Germany for help, requesting elite divisions to launch a decisive blow. The stage was set for a gamble that would change the course of the war on the southern front. Caporetto would become a lesson in both tactical brilliance and the limits of victory. The Allies would soon learn that no front was truly secure. The Italian army was about to face its greatest test. The Italian Second Army, under General Capello, was stretched thin along a mountainous front, its soldiers weary and its leadership inflexible. Cadorna's doctrine demanded holding every inch of ground, packing troops into vulnerable trenches with no plan for retreat. Opposing them was the new 14th Army, a combined German and Austro-Hungarian force, including elite German Alpen Corps, specialists in mountain warfare. The Germans brought revolutionary infiltration tactics. Small stormtrooper units would bypass strong points, probe for weak spots, and strike deep into the Italian rear. The battlefield around Caporetto was a maze of peaks and valleys, favouring defenders, but the Central Powers saw opportunity in the terrain. They planned to use the mountains as corridors, moving secretly to outflank the Italians. The Germans' flexible, decentralized approach was the opposite of the Italians' rigid defense. Infiltration tactics, pioneered by General von Hutier, meant stormtroopers would create chaos behind enemy lines, leaving strong points to be mopped up later. The Italians were unprepared for this radical new doctrine. The coming battle would pit old strategies against modern warfare. The outcome would reshape the entire front. The Central Powers were ready to strike. The Central Powers plan, codenamed Waffentreue, relied on secrecy, speed and overwhelming firepower. German troops and artillery moved into position under cover of night, undetected by the Italians. The attack began with a short, violent artillery barrage, mixing gas and high explosives to paralyze Italian defenses. Stormtroopers advanced through fog and rain, bypassing strong points and targeting command posts and supply lines deep in the rear. Junior officers had freedom to exploit opportunities, a stark contrast to the Italians' rigid command. The weather provided perfect cover. Thick fog and rain masked the assault. The plan aimed not just to break the line, but to shatter the Italian army's will to fight. The stage was set for a dramatic breakthrough. At 2 a.m., October 24, 1917, over 1,500 guns unleashed a storm of gas and shells on the Italian lines. Gas pooled in trenches, overwhelming defenders with faulty masks. The bombardment severed communications and destroyed artillery, blinding the Italian command. At dawn, stormtroopers advanced through fog, finding Italian troops dazed and choking. The front collapsed almost instantly in many sectors. Stormtroopers bypassed mountain strongpoints, pouring through valleys and cutting off Italian units. Near Tolmino, Erwin Rommel led a rapid advance, capturing key positions and thousands of prisoners. Isolated Italian units found themselves surrounded, panic spreading. By nightfall, the Italian line was shattered. Some areas saw advances of 25 kilometers. Key bridges were captured intact, allowing Central Powers reinforcements to flood through. The Italian Second Army dissolved into chaos. With no orders or hope of reinforcement, the Central Powers plan had worked to perfection. The Great Collapse had begun. The breakthrough quickly became a rout. Cadorna, slow to react, issued confused orders, first to hold, then to retreat, but too late. With no organized fallback, entire divisions dissolved. Soldiers and civilians clogged the roads in chaotic flight. Central Powers, troops and aircraft harassed the retreat, turning it into a nightmare. Mass surrenders followed as abandoned soldiers saw no reason to fight on. The collapse exposed the Third Army's flank, forcing a fighting withdrawal to the Tagliamento River. Within 2 weeks, the Central Powers advanced 150 kilometers, nearly reaching Venice. The Italian army ceased to exist as a fighting force in the region. Italy was on its knees, the Allies in shock. Caporetto was the result of multiple failures within the Italian army. Cadorna's rigid forward defence left troops vulnerable to concentrated artillery and gas with no reserves or fallback positions. Leadership was disastrous. Cadorna ruled by fear, ignored warnings and issued contradictory orders as the attack unfolded. Morale was shattered after years of pointless battles. Soldiers felt betrayed and exhausted. Many surrendered not out of cowardice but because they saw no hope or leadership. The Central Powers' innovative tactics, short violent barrages and infiltration, overwhelmed the Italians' outdated static doctrine. The Italian army was built for positional warfare, not the fast-moving, fluid assault it faced. When the line broke, the entire structure collapsed. Caporetto was a 20th century defeat for a 19th century army. The consequences would be felt across Italy and the Allied front. The defeat at Caporetto was catastrophic. Over 300,000 Italian casualties, including 265,000 prisoners. The army lost thousands of guns, machine guns, and vast stores of equipment. The Central Powers achieved their greatest victory, pushing deep into Italian territory and capturing valuable land. Morale soared in Vienna and Berlin. For a moment, it seemed Italy might be knocked out of the war. In Italy, the government collapsed, and Cadorna was replaced by General Diaz, a pragmatic leader who reformed the army and improved morale. Diaz introduced better rations, promised land to peasants, and adopted a more flexible defence. The disaster forced Britain and France to send reinforcements, stabilising the front on the Piave River. Allied intervention was crucial, both militarily and symbolically. Caporetto, ironically, strengthened Allied cooperation and forced Italy to modernise. The shock of defeat united the country and its allies. The Italian army began to rebuild under new leadership. The Southern Front would never be the same. Caporetto's legacy was just beginning. In the aftermath, myths and scapegoats emerged. Cadorna blamed defeat on a supposed military strike by cowardly soldiers, ignoring his own failures. In truth, Italian troops often fought bravely, but were overwhelmed by surprise, gas, and infiltration tactics. The real failure was at the top. Leadership vanished, leaving soldiers no choice but to surrender or flee. Caporetto was not just a German victory. Austro-Hungarian troops played a crucial role, using their knowledge of the terrain. The 14th Army's success was a combined effort. While Allied help was vital, Italian resilience was key. The Third Army's retreat and the defence of the Piave showed renewed determination. The spirit of the Piave became a rallying cry. Under Diaz and Orlando, Italy found the will to fight on. Caporetto was Austria-Hungary's greatest victory, a showcase of new tactics and stunning speed. Yet it proved a Pyrrhic victory. The Central Powers couldn't turn it into a war-winning breakthrough. Their advance stalled at the Piave, supply lines stretched and their armies exhausted. For Italy, the disaster was a turning point. Old leadership swept away, the army rebuilt, and national unity restored. Under Diaz, Italian soldiers fought with renewed purpose, transforming into a formidable force. For Austria-Hungary, Caporetto was a last gasp. The empire was crumbling from within. When they tried to repeat their success at the Piave in 1918, they were decisively defeated. Caporetto showed that tactical brilliance alone isn't enough. Victory must be sustainable. 1 year later, Italy would launch its own offensive, ending the war on the Italian front. Caporetto was Austria-Hungary's finest hour, and its last.